Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. You know, there have been many books written focusing on the struggle years. What makes this book a little bit different?
Well, I don't think it focuses so much on the struggle as on the people who were involved in it, and people who were displaced both physically and emotionally and had to find their roots again. So I try to explore, from a completely different angle, what happens to people when the struggle is over. There's a story in there which asks, what happens when we're an ordinary nation now?
Yeah, amazing. It's so, I mean, as you say, you know, the stories are fictional, but they're stories of real situations as many South Africans actually went through. You gave us a tiny example. I mean, give us another example. What are the type of stories?
Well, I think the one story that I spent a lot of time on in there is a story called Goodbye, Good Night. It's a story about a man who becomes, and it's not me, it's not autobiographical, the head of an archival institution, and one day the archivist brings him an old boss file which has his name in it, and he discovers that the woman that he's been in love with for 20 years was actually a double agent. She worked for both the security police and representative of a major liberation movement.
Yeah.
And that was because they coerced her because of her family. So she lives in New York in a foreign city. Yeah. And he retraces his memories over the years to the different places he's seen her, and finally she asks him to help not get rid of, but her cat in New York, and take the cat and can put it somewhere in a safe space because she cannot take the consequences of being exposed. So she moves far away somewhere to the Middle East to hide.
Amazing.
And that describes the kind of dilemma people go through.
Yeah. I mean, the stories is basically, I suppose, a linkage between the different characters where they take a pilgrimage into their past and how it's affecting them in the future, and how they are living and dealing with what they have, and how they have to kind of accept everything. And is this a book of acceptance? Is it a book of, you know, well, it happened, let's just sort of use it and move on?
Yes, it is a book of reconciliation, not this broad reconciliation, but reconciliation with yourself, reconciliation with your success and failures, and the fact that we weren't always the epitome of virtue that we thought we were going to be, and we knew that we were flawed human beings but didn't ever want to recognize it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the link throughout is the fact that each story shows how the past influences us in the future. No, that's the reality.
And how we can escape the past, how we can remember history but focus on the future.
Yeah. And I suppose lessons to be learned out of all of that.
A lot of lessons, a lot of lessons. One of the critics said there's a lot of sex in there, and I said, well, it's exploring human beings through a different, through their personal, to their sensuality, to who they are as human beings, and not just struggle icons. You know?
Yeah. Okay, so I missed the sex parts. Oh, I have to go and find those. Okay. Well, that's good. Now you've just made sales go through the ceiling, because you know that makes books sell a lot more. Achmat.
I didn't know that.
Achmat, how long did it take you to work on a book like this?
Well, I started writing these stories when I was in New York, 2004. Over the years, I've written, rewritten them, discarded, reshaped. A lot more has ended up in what I call my file 13 than has actually ended up in the book.
Yeah.
So I've written these stories over a period of 8 years. The last story was finished last year.
Yeah.
So it's a process. It takes you a long time, and that's the kind of writer I am.
Yeah.
Also, because of the other things that I do, I just had to find time to write wherever I could.
Wherever you could, and find the gaps. I mean, what you do is that you see the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Center of Memory, which is something that's coming to an end at the end of June. You know, you're going to be moving away from that. So can we see more books from you?
Well, yes, the centre's not coming to an end.
No, you are. Your role as CEO.
My role there,
absolutely.
Yes. After 7 years. Remember, I was at the Children's Fund before that as well.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have a 2-year stint with the Ford Foundation in Johannesburg.
Fantastic.
I've agreed to take a 2-year contract to work on various things that Ford has been doing over the years. They've been in this country for 20 years now, so I want to spend the next 2 years with them. And then I genuinely will retire and from my house sit and watch SABC Tower.
And write some more books, I hope.
Absolutely.
And
well, I'm in the middle of another novel right now.
That is amazing. Can you divulge what it's all about?
Well, it's also got to do with our past and our present.
Yeah?
But very basically, it's a story of a young woman, the daughter of an exile who comes back and has to struggle to find her feet. A young woman with rural roots who grew up in a U.S. city and now suddenly find that an American accent and a so-called Yankiness is making it difficult for her to fit in. You know?
Amazing.
So it's an odyssey of another sort.
Well, cannot wait for that one, but thank you for this one. It's in book stores around the country right now as we speak. You'll be able to buy this. It's called Strange Pilgrimages. It's short stories, fictional short stories from Achmat Dangor. He is the author of the Booker shortlisted Bitter Fruit as well, and also Kafka's Curse back in 1997. It's always a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for having me, Leanne.